Hello, welcome to another episode of Me and the Road. It's been a little while since I've done one of these due to the holiday season and crazy stuff going on. If you hear a white noise sound in the background, that's fans in my kitchen. We've had a kind of an accident here. Refrigerator sprung a good old leak and kind of destroyed a lot of our hardwood flooring. So we're having a dry out process. Hope you can't hear it too much. Anyway, this session I decided to talk about my experience writing No Love to Be Found and Someday You Will with Michael McDonald. One of the wonderful perks of and advantages of being in Michael McDonald's band was not long after I joined the band, I started to show some of my music to Michael. I would write tracks and send him to see if he'd want to collaborate, and he did, which was great. We wrote One More Word and I can't remember the other song right off the bat right now. But anyway, we developed a songwriting. Promise of Love was another one. We started to develop a writing relationship, so that was great. In 1995, Michael moved to Nashville, and I was still living in Chatsworth, California. And he encouraged me to come out and check out the Nashville scene. He thought it would be great for me as a writer to kind of get into this community and to come out and write with him. So, after talking about it for a while, thinking about it, I planned a trip out. It was December of 1995, and I remember coming out here to Nashville. It was cold. I remember thinking, "Ooh, it's a lot colder than California." No snow or anything, but it was just cold. And Mike booked a writing studio down on Music Row. I'm sure those of you in the music business have heard of the infamous Music Row. If you haven't, it's about 3 streets in downtown Nashville. I think it's 16th, 17th, and 18th Avenue, and it's kind of maybe a mile-long stretch, each of these avenues, and they're built of mostly older homes, like built in I'd say the 1920s, roughly around that. Classic old homes that have been converted into production houses, basically recording studios, management homes, and also down there is like the famous RCA studios, some of the other studios down there. Ocean Way over there? Yeah, I think Ocean Way's around there too. Anyway, Mike booked a place on 17th Avenue. I think his sister Kathy had something to do with that. I think she worked there in one of the production rooms there. Anyway, Mike booked this room. He booked me a hotel in town. Stayed at the Holiday Inn on West End Avenue. Anyway, so we met up at this. He came by, picked me up, and we went down to this writing studio on 17th, and went upstairs. It was like a 3-story, like an upstairs and then a main floor and then a downstairs. And in the downstairs, in the basement, I guess it was a recording studio. But we proceeded upstairs, and there was Mike had a portable keyboard, and I had my guitar and an amp, and we just started messing around with ideas. And he had an idea. He had a title for a song and he wanted it to be called No Love to Be Found. And he wanted it to be he wanted it to be like a walking blues, kind of a Memphis blues kind of a thing. And so he had a pretty good picture in his head and a title of what kind of a song he wanted to write. So I followed his lead, and the first lyric he came out with was "Down Here on Love's Killin' Floor." And I just went, "Holy moly, what's that?" And I responded with, "I doubt if we can take much more." And from there we started to write the lyrics together. He had the lick, dun, 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 kind of an ascending keyboard link, and then the guitar kind of went up. It was like they both went up and down at the same time. Funky as hell. And we started to map the tune out, kind of wrote the verses and tried to figure out how the chords were going to go, and we're mapping down the lyrics. And then it came a point where we were going to decide what to do with the bridge. And I had the idea of, the song was in kind of as in C minor, basically, like a blues C minor for the most. And so I thought, well, what if we went major for the bridge? Kind of a rock open, kind of a rock E flat, which is the relative major, of course, of C minor, and made it go major and big and kind of grandiose and opened it up. And Mike really liked that idea. So that's what we did. We flushed out the bridge with this E flat going to major rock and then back into the C minor for the solo. So we pretty much had that song kind of mapped out pretty fast. I'd say within an hour or two, we had it pretty much mapped out, and we were sort of just unconsciously taking a break from the song. And Mike started playing this other little riff in the key of G, I think it was. And I started playing along with it and came up with another figure to go along with it. And before you know it, we were writing down these words. We had this idea that I think this is another song. And little by little, we I don't know which one of us came up with the line "Someday You Will," but I'm not sure which one of us did. It might have been me. I'm not sure, but we figured out, kind of halfway writing this tune, writing it pretty much pulling the lyrics out of the air, and we both kind of looked at each other and figured out, I think this is about our friend Chuck Sabatino, who, if anybody knows Mike's history, Chuck was a childhood friend of Mike's, and they played in bands together for years until he came out to California and got into the California scene. And once he got established in the Doobie Brothers and left the Doobie Brothers, he started his own career, and Chuck came out to California and joined his band. And the rest is history, as they say. That's how I got to know Chuck, from being in Mike's band. Chuck and I became writing partners and close friends. Unfortunately, at the very beginning of 1994, Chuck suffered a very bad stroke that left him very incapacitated for the next 2 years of his life. He couldn't walk anymore. He couldn't talk. He basically was bedridden. We communicated through a letterboard to communicate with him, and he was all there in his head, but that was his life at this point. So when we were in Nashville and we were writing these lyrics, we didn't consciously say anything, but it turned out that we realized we were writing about Chuck, about Someday You Will is basically a story of coming down this road together and coming in life, and this is where your life is now, and this may not make sense now, but someday it will. Someday you will. You'll understand it. So we wrote that song in this same session, and we finished it up basically just me and Mike. I think this was pre-iPhone, so I think we had a tape recorder sitting close by and documented it the best we could so we wouldn't forget it, and then went back and finished up No Love to Be Found. And then the great thing about this production house, like I said, we went straight downstairs. We might have grabbed some lunch first. I don't remember exactly, but we went downstairs to the bottom floor of this production house, and there was a little recording studio there. And we had an Alesis drum machine, I remember, and I think I programmed and patterned for No Love to Be Found. And Mike and I tracked the guitar and his keyboard part at once. And then I went back and laid a reference bass track, and and then he put a vocal down, and then we did the same process for Someday You Will. Put down a drum machine, guitar, keyboard, I put down a bass, and then he put down a vocal. And I think that very same day, if I'm not mistaken, we had Bill Livesey, who's a friend of Mike's from way back in St. Louis, great keyboard player, came in and played some B3 parts on both songs, which really brought the tracks up. So there were demos at this point. And so then I stayed in Nashville maybe a couple days and went home. And in the meantime, Tommy Sims was hired as the producer for an album that was becoming Blue Obsession. And these songs plus Obsession Blues, which I documented in another episode, became main tracks for these songs. And Tommy liked the demos so much that he used those demos, the actual tracks, as the starting point for he kept my guitar, he kept Mike's keyboard for both tracks. He replaced the bass because he's obviously one of the bass players in existence, and he put some other parts on it, had Dan Needham come in and play drums on both tracks, and built the track up. It had been a while since I heard the tracks. I was back in California, and Mike sent me a mix of No Love to Be Found and Someday You Will to show where it was, how it had come along. And to my surprise, on No Love to Be Found, there was a woman on the track with Mike, and I'm like, it became a demo. I'm like, what? I had no idea, and it was the first time I had heard it. And at first I was kind of like, I don't know about this, but about halfway through the track I was sold, and it was Wendy Moten, of course. And Wendy Moten, as you know, recently came in first runner-up in the voice competition. She should have won, but so I knew about Wendy as early as 1995, 96 actually, by the time I got the work tape of it. So anyway, as you know, those songs went on to be on the Blue Obsession album. No Love to Be Found got a lot of airplay. It never really became a hit. I always thought it should have. It just didn't get the push that it should have gotten, I think. But it did really well, considering all that. It could have been a hit, sort of was a hit, became a very big, strong song in our show. Originally, when we first started doing it, Yvette Prayer sang the duet with Mike. She was astonishing, playing drums and doing lead vocal. Yvette was a great performer. And then when Yvette left the band, Drea Renee took over the vocal. She did an amazing job and sang it pretty much up to the point where we kind of retired it from the show a few years ago. But it always got pretty much close to, if not, a standing ovation every night. Very, very good crowd pleaser. The crowds love that song. And I was always so proud to be a part of it. And later we actually did the song live with Wendy a couple times, once at the NAMM show, if you ever get a chance to watch Michael's NAMM tribute. And we did it on 2 or 3 TV shows around the time. I can't remember what the shows were. I don't remember. But Wendy always just delivered that song. Miss Monet sang it a couple times with us, a few times, and she killed it as well. So I can't tell you how proud I'm of being a part of that song, and Someday You Will. That's pretty much the story of those 2 songs. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope it gives you some insight. Go back and listen to them. I even have the original demos, and I recorded Someday You Will on my, I think it was Life As You Know It CD, so you can check out an alternate version there, which I thought was pretty good too. But that's it. No Love to Be Found, Someday You Will. This has been another episode of Me and the Road. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll have more soon. Peace and love. Stay safe, everybody. Be happy.